Welcome to Power of X-Men, the podcast where we review every single issue of the revolutionary, groundbreaking, punk epic, mutant masterpiece known as Morrison's New X-Men. I'm the Uncanny Dayspring.
And I'm the new Flinkman.
And we are here with another issue of Grant Morrison's New X-Men, issue number 117. We are not sidetracked with trivia assignments, interviews. We are sitting down and we are back again with another episode of Grant Morrison.
Yeah, and listen, trivia, all of that, the little detours, all of that is obviously going to be a big part of this going forward, but we were a little lax in our duties as Grant Morrison's New X-Men Defenders. We went a couple of weeks there without, so I feel like we owe it to the listeners, to the familia, to stay on track. We got this.
Well, specifically Hammy, which Hammy's like, my subscription to Marvel Unlimited, my free trial is ending. Can you boys just go through these issues right now? And I love that.
Every single day for the next, how many issues? We'll just throw out 50 issues. Like, no, I don't think we're gonna wrap this by your 30-day trials. And Hammy, I'm very sorry.
One thing I did want to say to you, though, because I have been dying to talk about this with you since I got the figure in, is the Marvel Legends X Factor Cyclops. Like, we're obviously going to talk about it, but you already know where I'm going with this. Have you seen this bitch's tongue?
Okay.
Like,
I think it's wild that number one, it's wild that Hasbro put that much effort into his screaming mouth, but also I am a 5-year-old, so the first thing I did immediately was plop that head on and put the power effect in, and after that I'm like not looking at his mouth too much. I'm like, God, look at this power effect. But yeah, okay. He's looking a little popcorn bucket, if you know what I mean.
I just can't get over it. I just like it looks like it has like a little saliva like sheen on it. Like I'm so impressed. We talked about the eye technology with Hasbro for such a long time, and now look at their mouth. This is like,
look at the mouth on this figure. It's so lifelike. Cyclops with his mouth agape, the tongue, it's shiny. Like, where are we going with this?
I'm just saying, like, props, because there's a lot of talk out there with cost-saving measurements.
Yeah,
and of course we can see it in the line here and there, but like even amongst this turmoil with Hasbro, they can deliver some stellar toy technology there.
I don't want to get too deep in my thoughts here, because the last two figures I need from that wave are like going to be here the day after tomorrow. So it's coming. It's soon.
Which ones do you
Nightcrawler and Marrow, because I'm a principled person and canceled my Amazon orders. It's when you work in an office full of nerds who buy action figures and you're the last one to get the X-Men, when you're usually the first one, and everybody's at when Lacey's at her desk teeing with her Fabian Cortez before mine arrived, like, no, it's rough. It's rough to be a principled person.
Lacey, I love that Lacey's trolling you. Come on, Lacey. Well,
absolutely.
Wait, Lacey, she did a segment for us, or she gave us a video a couple years ago.
Yeah, it would have been 2022, 2023. One of those best.
I have no idea where we're at in time. I looked at someone today and I was like, oh, it's 2021, and literally they looked at me like I had 3 heads.
I was talking about 2016 as if it was like 5 minutes ago earlier today, and somebody very rudely pointed out that was a full driving teenager ago, and I'm like, you shut your mouth. Like, we don't need to talk about that.
Oh my God, I was talking with someone and they said something like, oh, my childhood trauma, because I posted the prototype Psylocke with the actual light-up Psylocke.
Triggered, yes.
Someone was like, actually, for me, I was a kid, and it was Emma. It was the Hasbro Annihilus Wave Emma. That was like their big seminal. I was like, I was like middle-aged when that came out. I was in the workforce.
We were okay. Listen. We are advanced in years now, but let's not age us unnecessarily. Yeah. We were 23 and 24 when that figure came out. We were babies, infants.
That's true.
Our childhoods.
Anyways, but I just thought that was really funny with age and stuff like that. It always kind of throws me off.
Well, there's somebody out there either engaged with us on social media or listening right now who is like, actually, mine was Emma Frost being with her lazy eye in the Wolverine Origins wave where she didn't come with a cape. And I'm like, who's like literally a child.
Oh, the other one that
Been around a minute.
Here's another non-X-Men one that again someone in my neighborhood who I'm friends with. He's in his 20s, and I was talking to him, and he was here, and we were talking about Gaga and her new album, which we love, and Bad Romance. And I was like, oh man, when Bad Romance came out, everyone was going wild for that. It was like a moment, and he's here like, yeah, my mom didn't let me buy it because I was in like fourth grade, and I was like,
at least he was alive. Because again, 2009 was 16. No, yeah, it was 16 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So he's like 26 now, so he would have been about 10. That's wild to me. I was like, I'm so sorry you weren't partying at the Box on Christie Street in New York City with Gaga when she was friends with Perez Hilton, that you were just a child in middle school or fourth grade, whatever that is.
I also think I completely mathed wrong earlier, but like, listeners, don't correct me. I have Excel for math these days. And I say this all the time. The biggest lie we were told as children was by math teachers who said we weren't going to have a calculator in our pocket with us everywhere we went. Liars. They lied.
Fuck them. I remember Dr. V for my junior high math class wouldn't let us use our scientific calculator. Fuck you, Dr. V. Fuck you.
We're not here for math. We're here for X-Men.
One thing to talk about math before we get into it, because I really am proud of this fact for Morrison's new X-Men, just really quickly on sales figures.
Yeah.
Issue 114, 115, 116, and 117, which we are discussing today, all number one back to back from May to August.
Boom. It kept coming back. It wasn't just a big launch, shiny number one. Well, it wasn't even a number one, but you know what I mean. It wasn't just a big launch first issue situation.
And this issue in particular shipped 136,000 copies. Again, that is a significant bump from where they were at before, and it's still an amazing number by today's standards. I mean, I think most issues would love just to be at 90 or 100K. So the fact that this, for multiple months, is shipping 136, very proud of Morrison, and quietly, they have done such a great job. This relaunch, again, proof positive. And we discussed this in the Joe Casey interview as well, which is you don't need to relaunch at number one every single time and think you're going to get the sales boost. You can relaunch literally at whatever number, as long as you have great talent behind the books.
Yeah. And they did. And to me, that's not subjective, but you know, what can I say?
The only thing that broke the pattern was Wolverine Origins. That's it. Because Wolverine Origins published in September, and they would go on to have the number one title.
Oh, well, yes. Yeah. Okay. I was like, what do you mean Wolverine Origins? That didn't start until after House of M, but you're talking...
Yeah, I'm with you. The original Wolverine Origins that he himself doesn't know the series.
Listen, anyways. Recycled titles, I can't. It's much like math, I can't keep up.
Anyway, so we're here today to discuss issue 117 of Grant Morrison. Frank Whiteley, sadly, is not in this issue, and in his place is Ethan Van Sciver.
Yeah, so that's a whole hot button topic that I think we have to address. For those who know, you know, but if not, here's sort of the deal. We may, objectively discuss his art, but this is a situation where we are absolutely going to have to separate the art from the artist as best we can. He is a very controversial figure. He was huge in Comicsgate, which I don't want to give those jerks a whole lot of airtime, but basically it was a huge anti-diversity movement in comics. They harassed women, other marginalized people, and he was one of the loudest voices, sort of a ringleader of that. And, for his internet bullshit, he ended up getting fired from all of his mainstream comics gigs, blacklisted, Unfortunately, we know that doesn't always, being shunned by the mainstream doesn't always stop these people. So, he took his outrage song and dance routine to YouTube. You can still probably find him there ranting about woke comments. So he's just the kind of person who likes to like cash in on the outrage and be like as offensive as possible. On top of all of that, he's made some pretty disturbing Nazi references. He's accused of making some pretty disturbing Nazi references in his art. He has thrown some Holocaust jokes around at Jewish comic writers. Even his fans, he raised a whole bunch of money on Kickstarter for an indie book that's coming out. It's been delayed worse than an Image comic in 1992. So, like, even his fans are slowly starting to maybe realize that this guy is a scammer. So, not somebody we root for, care
Right.
about.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, he's here, drawing a few issues of this title, and I think it's important to say something and strongly condemn it because the X-Men, especially under Morrison, stand for literally the opposite of everything this artist represents, and so do we.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I watch everything. I'm one of those people that I like seeing the source and what is said. And he has called people soy boys before, which is like, and he has said this himself, exact quotes. Soy boy is a nice way of saying gay. And it's so incredibly condescending. He has done, like, what is it called? Like the fandom menace, where he was like stabbing a Rose Tico figure on denouncing The Last Jedi, which I never understand why people don't like The Last Jedi. We're not a Star Wars podcast. I walked out of that movie thinking it was great. But again, I'm not a Star Wars person. I pride myself on being objective. It was just an objectively good movie. Yes, you have your lightsaber there. Jeff and
I'm
I
not a
watched.
Star Wars person. I don't.
I think I have
I
the
don't
same
care
one.
about Star Wars.
My buddy Phil got married and they gave us all replica like lightsabers like that one. But yeah, so I just think it's highly offensive. I think, you go to source material, like the source of where he broadcasts everything on his YouTube, and it's just highly offensive. So when we talk about the issues, thankfully he only does like 4 issues, but he does have a couple covers out there. If we talk about the art and we say something positive about the art, we are separating the artist from the artist, the art from the artist. The art is pretty. It is pretty art, but, it comes from a very foul person.
Yeah, and we've already given him more airtime than he deserves, because this is a really great issue, and that is what we should really focus on.
Can I tell you something?
Please.
Can I tell you something that's just really private? So I was reading this issue in the bathtub, and I started crying for Hank McCoy. I have become so sensitive in my old age. I felt so bad for Hank in this.
It's a really tragic issue for Hank. I dare I say that this. No, I don't dare. This isn't a new thing for me to say. Like, new X-Men Beast is the peak for the character. It is really only downhill for him after Morrison leaves, and this issue goes a very long way in making you feel sorry for and root for Hank McCoy, which is not what we typically do around here.
It is this. I didn't realize all the work that Morrison was doing in this issue, really deconstructing all of these characters, putting them at their core and extremely vulnerable, at least with Jean and Beast. In this issue specifically, anything they thought was true or consistent is stripped away from them. So why don't we just get into it? Because
Let's do it.
It's a very straightforward issue, but I think there's a lot to unpack. And the first few pages, we are introduced to Beak, a hallmark of the new X-Men crew. And Beak is running through a forest with Hank chasing him. And Beak is trying to learn how to fly. in it, and when Beast like jumps on him and he falls to the ground, we find out that this was just a danger room simulation. And Beast is like, Barnell, have you really decided on this mutant name of yours? And he's like, I'm sure. This is what my first girlfriend called me. And Hank introduces, like, they walk out of the danger room, and Hank introduces him as Beak to all the students waiting training.
I surprisingly have a lot of thoughts on just these like opening 2.5 pages. The first page is just a really nice establishing shot of a splash page, full page shot of Beast chasing after Beak. What really strikes me about this is I kind of love that we're just diving into the new students. There's no Kitty Pryde recruitment, no Phalanx Covenant, just here's a student, he's already here, and he's going to be important. I mean, that's not to say I don't love a good recruitment or crossover, but it's kind of nice to not waste time. Like Morrison, I feel like they know that they only have a limited time to tell their X-Men story, and they just kind of get into it. And the dynamic between, the cat and the bird here is perfect. It makes sense for Hank to be a mentor for this
I never
character.
thought about that. I never thought about that. The cat and the bird. Genius.
Yeah. It's a very logical pairing, even if you can't help but worry that the cat might eat the bird one day. But yeah, no, it's good because like neither of them can pass for human, so it makes sense that of all the staff, Beast would be the one mentoring, not just Beak. If you actually look at pretty much all of the students when they exit the danger room, and it's a subtle detail that I'm sure Morrison called for. If you look at the students, most all of them have visible mutations, which kind of differs. I don't want to jump ahead too much, but it differs kind of from the next page where there's a lot of, human passing mutants. So I kind of like this idea of Beast mentoring the most physically mutated students that are like himself.
Yeah, and Beast is telling Beak, no one's expecting you to graduate overnight to become an X-Man. Don't worry about it. Like, you're here to learn how to hone your mutant gifts. Hank is a really great teacher. Very sympathetic. I'm sorry, my mind is very blown about the cat and the bird. Literally, and I pride myself in knowing more. Again, this is why you go back and you reread these things and you find different layers, or you're having a conversation with someone who sees something differently, and this is why Morrison is worth the time, Familia. But great opening scene. The writing's great. I agree with everything you said.
It's arguably, Beast is such a good mentor here. He's really supportive. He's really motivating. This honestly is probably one of the best Beast issues in existence. We kind of touched on that already, but like I would go so far as to say this could be the best Beast.
If you want to understand Hank McCoy, this issue shows you his fears, what he's worked for, his relationship, stuff like that. Yeah,
agreed. For sure. So once we move past the danger room, we have another lovely spread, double-page spread of students. The Xavier Institute is packed with students like we have never seen before. Like this really, to me, this just sort of drives home how different this era is for the Xavier Institute, because we've never seen Westchester overflowing with students like this before, nor have we seen the kind of demonstrations at the gates that are at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, and I believe they said something in this issue. It's 52 students. Like the school is really packed. I don't understand. Okay, so this beautiful splash page, the kids are laughing as Emma's walking through, and Emma's in her diamond form. Are they laughing at Emma? Is Emma just in diamond to be in diamond because she doesn't want to deal with them? I'm confused.
It definitely looks like there are a few students looking at her and laughing, but I don't know. I don't think so. But maybe you could. I kind of had that too. I was like, well, why would they be laughing at Emma? Yeah. And then you pair that with her being in diamond form, where we know she doesn't have feelings. So if she's being laughed at, it would make sense for her to be but I want to be in on the joke. And then there's students still laughing out on the lawn where Cyclops is looking
Angry.
rather tense, even for Scott Summers. But important on this page is we get our first ever appearance of the iconic Glob Herman.
Yep, there he is in the background. Not with pancakes, as he would so famously have later on, but there he is, just strolling in the background of Cyclops, and we have protesters too, where God hates mutants. What else do they say here? Genetic cleanliness begins at home. Have your babies tested now. Jesus Christ. It's not murder if it's a mutant. This is savage. These are savage fucking signs.
Yeah, it is. And again, I think this was either concurrent with or a little ahead of, once again, like things like the Westboro Baptist Church and their notorious, God hates signs. And here we have that, God hates mutants. This is a direct parallel to the environment surrounding the gay community at the time. And that was, this is just 25 years ago, which may be a quarter of a century now. So just 25 years is still a long time, but it's very timely, holds up quite well. And something I noticed, okay, look at the student. I just noticed this just now. Look at the student standing right to the left of Cyclops with elongated arms. He has X-Men names all over his shirt. He's got Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Wolverine. I literally just noticed this.
No, and you know what's so funny? Yeah, you have to flip it upside down and you can see it. I thought about that, like, oh, is there some code in the shirt? And there, because I was looking at it upside down. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Cyclops, Wolverine, Nightcrawler is all there. And I think that this is one of the characters, I think he does come back. I think he's in the background of some new X-Men issues. We'll keep an eye on it.
We'll keep an eye out for Long-Armed Man.
Long-Armed Man.
But man sounds better.
One of the things about this current situation is that Xavier, as you'll remember, in the previous issue, outed the school as mutants, because up until this point, the X-Men, no one knew where their base was, I guess. It's been a couple decades since I remember a lot of this stuff. But so no one knows where the X-Men's base is. They didn't know this school was actually a mutant school and that Xavier was a mutant. He was never publicly seen as a mutant. So now they have become a target. This was one of the major things that radically changed the X-Men and still influences them like almost 25 years later.
Yeah, unlike the Peter Parker reveal in Civil War, this is not a genie that Marvel has put back in the bottle. Everybody knows Xavier's a mutant. Everybody knows that the X-Men are affiliated with him, and that is unique to this. That happened in the Morrison era, and it's strange because you read these stories now and you just sort of feel like, well, it's always been that way, but it was only here that actually happened.
Yeah. And we'll find out why Xavier outed the school in this issue. And it's really interesting. And the next page, we start seeing a little hint as to what that is, because Hank is trying to have a conversation with Xavier talking about Beak, saying that he's not going to be able to, slip through the cracks. He's not going to, he looks a certain way. His mutant abilities are obvious. He wants to make sure that he's there and he's going to be a mentor for Beak, and that he has really bonded with Beak, and Beak is going to bring him his titanium bat. And Xavier's like, I can always do a mind read to make sure everything's okay. You seem happy, Henry. What do you have going on? And Henry is like, oh, I have a date tonight. And then Xavier looks at Cerebra and says, yes, so do I.
Ominous.
But again, to your point, and I'm sorry to cut you off really quickly.
Yeah.
I think to your point, brilliantly, cat and bird, and cat really cares about the bird. Wonderful analogy there.
Yeah, and there's significance to the Beak having a prize titanium baseball bat, which we will of course get to. But first, we have to get to Hank's big date. He is all dressed in a 3-piece tux, looking quite dapper, if I do say so myself. But then he hits play on his old school answering machine. This is not this is not voicemail here. Hank McCoy's, for all his scientific prowess, is still using an answering machine. It is Trish Tilby, his longtime love interest, calling to apologize for being a coward. And it's not you, it's me. You're still the same lovely Hank, but I can't help but look in your eyes. They look at me like I'm prey sometimes. And the Inquirer ran a story about the word bestiality as it relates to them as a couple. So, she's worried about her career. She is, sorry about that, but she is looking out for Trish Tilby, leaving Hank a sullen mess at the end of the page.
Fuck Trish. I was so heartbroken because Beast is all excited. He's here like, we're gonna have champagne and a hot air balloon over upstate New York, which, bitch, that costs a pretty penny. Like, Xavier's really just giving out those black Amex cards to the staff, and they have their own like budgets. But I just, there was something about Beast, the way he was looking at himself in the mirror. He was so excited. And here's the thing, it's a morally complicated situation because Beast has undergone a metamorphosis. Trish is obviously put off by that. The Inquirer is running a story basically implying bestiality, and she has a career that she has built for herself, and now it's all being jeopardized. You wish that could be as easy as like, hey, fuck you, Trish, but there's a lot going on here, and I think she's a horrible human being for this.
Yeah.
I didn't like her in X-Men 97. I think the implication was that she was one of Bastion's Sentinel volunteers. And I'm like, oh, Trish, haven't changed. But she has been to space with Beast. They have fought the Phalanx together. She gets it. And she would have refuge in the mansion. Here's the thing about Trish. She's not a trailblazer. I'm not going to blame her. How about this? This is where I'm ending my feelings. She's not, I'm not blaming her for prioritizing her well-being and her career, whatever. But you're not a trailblazer. You're not standing up for the people who need it and the people who love you. Shame on you, Trish. Shame on you,
Trish. And I think, again, I'm like a broken record with this at this point, but I think this is kind of just another example of Morrison being ahead of their time, because Trish is someone who has, been on the mutant side and stood up for them in public in the recent enough past. And Morrison turning her into someone who cowers to the pressure of like the turning public tide feels very relevant to the situation, that we're in now, where so-called allies of the community have responded to the political changes in this country by just like bending the knee and cowering to it. So, I reading it's very interesting reading this in the current political climate. I don't want to get too political, but
no,
it adds a fresh layer to Trish being a terrible person for me.
I think Trish is. I mean, listen, I've never been sold on Trish. And I keep wanting to call her Trisha Helfer, and I love Trisha Helfer so much. Number 6 from Battlestar Galactica, of course. But the thing about Trish is, again, I've never seen her as sort of like a star reporter. She, for me, reads like local evening news. No offense to our local evening news anchors, but she's not Good Morning America. She's not doing. She's no Savannah Guthrie. How about that? Trish is definitely a local anchor, but I just think it's heartbreaking for Hank because Hank has had a lot of insecurities. We had this already established in the previous issues where he had to relearn how to write. He's noticed his change. So this is his worst fear epitomized.
Yeah, and the body language in the scene really shows how dejected he is as he goes from excitedly looking in the mirror to realizing what she's saying to just completely sulking in defeat. This is a tough one for our boy Hank, and under normal circumstances we'd be pointing and going ha ha, but in this issue, in the span of just a few pages, Morrison has made the biggest Beast haters on the internet into major Hank McCoy sympathizers.
I'm a Hank McCoy sympathizer. Clock it here. So the next few pages is actually a really interesting, again, situation where we just deconstructed Hank and his relationship with Trish. Now we're going to deconstruct Wolverine and Jean because Wolverine is meditating on the grounds in the forest, and Jean comes to see him. And Jean is talking about how she has been feeling a little isolated from Cyclops, that she thought that there wasn't anything better than the feelings she had for him, but now things have changed. Her telekinesis is coming back. It's like a muscle she's rediscovering, and she feels like an idiot for still yearning for Logan. And they kiss, and Wolverine looks at her and says, "We know the deal. It just will never work between us." And that's it. We will not get any of the Jean, Cyclops, Wolverine love triangle anymore for the remainder of Morrison's run.
But the two panels that close out that page hint at the new sides of the love triangle that we will be getting. But I don't want to jump ahead to that. I love that transition of like closing the door on one love triangle and immediately opening the door to another. But there's a lot to unpack in these Wolverine Jean scenes. I have a lot of thoughts. Like,
let's hear.
So can I just say how much I love that Wolverine is, he was burned down to, his arm was burned down to the adamantium skeleton the last time we saw him. So he has gone out into the wilderness for days to meditate and heal. And I wish we'd have more of this Logan now. The one who has a healing factor, but still pays a price for the damage done to his body. I kind of feel like he's been pretty much invulnerable and unkillable since like I think it was Civil War, when he was like had the nitro like blew all of his skin and muscles away, and it was literally just his adamantium skeleton still standing in an explosion. And I feel like this is a much more interesting version of the character. Someone who feels the damage, has to take the time, has to heal their soul as well as their body. It's just such a much more interesting version than Wolverine than most writers are willing to write.
Oh my God, take us to church there, Flink. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Again, it's not just a physical, it's a psychological pain, and it's remembering and having, and as we know, people who endure extreme physical trauma, they have echo pains or whatever the official term is. Wolverine would have to meditate. It grounds him. It turns him from being this, as you said, invulnerable, indestructible character to someone who is deeply human and relatable. Right? He has sort of some cracks in his armor, and that's fine. It's okay to. He doesn't need to be the most powerful you can never kill. Like, he is in pain. Agreed, 100%.
And that's just the Wolverine part of this scene. Which, by the way, we should mention that this page, Wolverine does ask. He notices a star that he's not familiar with. He asks what it is, and we learn that Lilandra and the Shi'ar are coming to pick up the professor for a vacation. So that'll a little seed, but
a little hint there.
This conversation with Jean is just so perfect, and anyone who can read this and still think the marital problems and the Scott Emma situation are forced or out of nowhere, I truly don't know what to say to you, because it's also very clear and it comes straight from the sacred cow's mouth. Like,
oh my God! It took me. She's not a sacred cow. She is the white phoenix of the crown. How dare you?
And we love that for her. We love that for her. I'm just doing a little foreshadow quote. Sorry. Yeah. I have enraged the very people I was just discussing even more.
This is why we are crazy Jean stans.
It's people like me.
Yeah.
It's people like you that make me.
What have I done? I have literally been so encouraging of your analysis of our God Queen. And here you are saying something really insightful. I'm nodding, and you call her a sacred cow, which of course...
I'm sorry, I just ruined my point. No,
anyways.
The God Queen, white phoenix of the crown.
They were going to say the white phoenix of the cow.
Moo. No, listen. This is much like Beast. This is some very strong writing for Jean that takes somebody who is usually indifferent to negative about the character as I am, and really humanizes her in a way that, while also making clear that her powers are increasing, she's getting stronger, but also grounding her in these completely understandable marital problems with Cyclops. It's a very interesting take on the character, and she looks great in her why can't I think of what kind of coat this is? Her full length,
her duster.
jacket.
Do you call them dusters, right?
Yeah. Okay. Great. She looks great in her black leather duster. My preferred version of her new X-Men costume is definitely
Agreed.
this
She looks
version with
amazing.
the long jacket.
I think what's really key here for us really great, awesome, amazing God Queen fans is that Jean is really, this is her final grasp at her humanity, right? She wants to feel something because she is transcending this relationship with Cyclops. Her powers are growing bigger and bigger. She wants to kiss Wolverine. I don't know who makes the first kiss because we have the panel where they're like at the end of the page where they're separate and the next they're kissing. And Logan does have his hand in her hair and he goes, you know the deal, it's not going to work. And he walks away from her. So it's very, I'd be curious who leaned in first. I always read it as Jean making the move to Logan and Logan wanting it, but he just doesn't want to involve himself in that drama anymore. And I think he also understands what's going on with Jean at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's Jean. You know, she says, I feel so strong and alive.
Yeah.
And that she's lonely. So she sees...
she's horny.
Plus, you know,
God Queen is horny. Sorry.
He's wearing his leather pants and he's shirtless. So he's looking pretty, he's looking pretty good.
Again, it's the quietly Logan that's hot. Quietly Logan's a hot one for me.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But just in theory, if a hot shirtless man with a hairy chest and leather pants is standing before you, and you know you can get with that, you might take the chance.
Yeah, and listen, I'm glad that we're put to rest here, and I think the Scott Emma love triangle that we're going to get is a bit more interesting because of the kind of character Emma is and how Morrison writes her. But Emma, I was actually kind of thinking, was Emma checking out Scott's ass with her binoculars?
Yes.
Okay. Because it's not really positioned to his ass, and
Correct.
I was zooming in, but yeah, that's the only thing. So to frame it for the Familia, Scott and Emma are in front of the school. The Shi'ar ship is arriving. Emma has binoculars saying, oh, my students are telling me I should come see it. And she goes, but this view, what does she say? My students say I should witness this spectacle. Where exactly should I be aiming these prying lenses, Scott dear?
So she's basically asking for permission to check him out.
Emma, everyone in this issue is so fucking horny. I love it. I mean, Beast wants to hook up with Trish, Jean and Wolverine, and now Emma. Everyone here just wants to have sex.
Yeah, I have to tell you something. I hate Scott's glasses. I hate them.
Oh yeah, they're very.
They are
80s
giving
retro.
They're giving. What is his name? Like Zach the Neutrino from Ninja. Do you remember him from Ninja Turtles? Their little dude with the big hair from the alternate dimension and his little. It's giving very that. I think this is not a great Cyclops in this issue.
It's also, what was that movie? Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on it? Wait, I'm Googling it really quick. Oh, it's Mannequin, obviously, with Kim Cattrall.
Yeah.
And Hollywood Montrose. Was that the character's name? But, okay, anyways, it's those kind of sunglasses from the...
What?
Sorry. It's really much those 80s glasses, very thin. They're kind of triangularly shaped. But yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't even notice that. Very good job on that. Yeah, they look awful on him.
He doesn't look great. He doesn't look great.
That's not even from the times. I'm pretty sure those weren't even coming back at
Not at all. Not at all.
Anyway.
I digress. We could go on and on about the fashions and the horniness of these mutants, but I digress. We have a very important plot to get to, which is Xavier and Beast inside the Institute In the elevator going down to the sub levels. And actually, it does say, I think you said 52
Is it
students.
51?
It says 152.
Oh, and 51. Oh, 152. Okay, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Yeah. So there's a lot of teenagers running around the institute. Anyway, so they're headed to the sub basement where Hank's lab is. Xavier, asks, "Shouldn't you be on your date?" And B says, "Oh, I decided that the charms of a virtual autopsy far outweighed those." And so he's checking out Cassandra Nova, who or a virtual simulation of Cassandra Nova, and he has noticed something, which is presumably why he has invited Xavier to the sub basement, because he wanted to see if we had encountered anything like her before. And we turn the page to the reveal. Why does Cassandra Nova have the same DNA as you, Professor?
And that is when we find out that Xavier's body has been hijacked by Cassandra Nova. And she says, "Well, that's because I'm his genetic twin, Henry. It's actually that simple. Charles and I have shared a unique psychic frequency since conception. It was easy for me to climb inside his wonderful brain and take it over." So when Xavier was shot Cassandra Nova, and Cassandra Nova was saying, Charles, Charles," he was saying, "I'm Charles" in Cassandra Nova's body.
Yep.
And here's Cassandra Nova hijacked Xavier's body, and it now all makes sense why she was looking, or Xavier was looking at Cerebra, and why he has summoned the Shi'ar, or she has summoned the Shi'ar.
Do you get it now? Charles has left the building. I'm Cassandra Nova Xavier.
It's brilliant. And again, you just didn't know. So Cassandra Nova, in just not even like an entire full issue, just half an issue, has weakened the mutants by outing them, making the school extremely vulnerable, going to be taking over the Shi'ar Empire and having access to Cerebra. My goodness. And also being in Xavier's brain. Cassandra Nova, literally, in just like 5-10 pages, has done this much damage. And it was there all along, and we didn't even know that as a reader at the time.
At the time, I mean, obviously the visual clues were there, so you knew there had to be some sort of connection, but I wasn't suspecting that they had swapped psyches. Like I did not see, like, the relationship. Yes, there's obviously a relationship between the two characters physically, but I did not see Cassandra Nova possessing Xavier coming at all. And these scenes of her, of Xavier's body and brain attacking Beast, how does it feel to have someone throw up on your soul, Henry? And just, bad, ugly, hurt, just projecting these terrible, feelings into Beast. And it's not only does Xavier look genuinely terrifying on these pages, it's the cutting words that really, sell the scene. And basically what Xavier is telling Beast here is that, while the rest of mutant kind are kind of on the ascent, you are devolving from man to ape to cat. What's next? Are you going to be a worm? Are you going to be bacteria? Calling out having a litter box. Like, it's not just a physically terrifying scene as Beast is like bleeding from his nose and his mouth and crying. It's just the most horrible things, cutting the words that would cut right to Hank's soul. And it kind of, jumping way ahead to Astonishing X-Men, it's with these kind of ideas planted in his brain, you can almost better understand why he was tempted to take the mutant cure just to stop his de-evolution and save his existence. Like, those are the kinds of, saving his very existence are the kinds of themes that we're dealing with here. It's dark. It's dark. It's mean.
It is so mean, and Beast is literally, like you said, on the floor, bleeding, tears from his mouth. He's saying, I have a doctorate degree. I can make dirty rhymes, out of everything I've studied. Like, I'm a smart person. You can't tell me I'm not smart. And she looks at the litter, like Cassandra Nova as Xavier looks at the litter box and is like, you know what? Speaking of your PhD, why don't you grab it off that wall and wipe yourself with it? Oh my God. So that's the part that got me because like Hank, he doesn't recognize himself in the mirror, but what he has are his accomplishments, and she is attacking that. She is attacking that weakness. It broke my heart, and we have the image of Beast grabbing his diploma, about to crack it open when Beak walks in, and
Dr. McCoy.
oh gosh, and he brought the bat. Oh, talk about like the worst Beak, worst timing ever. But he has a bat. And Cassandra Nova sees an opportunity. Beast obviously sees a moment to try to pin Cassandra Nova down, and she uses that to hit her advantage, and she gets Beak to start hitting Hank with the bat. And it's heartbreaking for Beak because he doesn't want to do it. It's a bat that he was giving to his favorite teacher as a keepsake. I mean, this is an fucking awful scene.
I am terribly,
I'm gonna
terribly.
cry. Oh, I'm gonna cry. Jesus, I need some vodka.
It's not just obviously we have Beast is this is a traumatic scene for Beast, which we have established, but I'm terribly upset for Beak here as well. I mean, he is screaming, no, I don't want to do this, as he is brutally being forced to attack somebody he trusts and respects, and you can just, the art sells his anguish. You can just see he is sobbing as he is being forced to do this, and it's
so sad.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, but it is also an opportunity for me to throw a little shade. Because I do have to point out that the artist actually messed this one up. Beast clearly states Beak's prized titanium baseball bat earlier in the issue, but it's clearly drawn to be wood, so people should pay attention to their scripts and their notes from their writers.
I love how meticulous you are in this issue. I love the side of you, Michelle.
This is a really intense issue. Unless you are just an uncaring, unfeeling person, there's no way for you to not be fully taken in by this issue. Not for happy reasons, but I am paying attention to every detail of this issue because the story is so...
It's engrossing.
Yes, engrossing. I love it, but maybe just a slight bit of shade. Maybe. Does it not seem to you that Beast was taken out relatively easy by a baseball bat? Don't you think he would? I don't know. I guess with Cassandra Nova in his head.
Well, I think because they made it a point to say titanium. So perhaps that would be the issue for it. I'd have to do an analysis of Beast's durability in previous issues. But I think the idea here is Cassandra Nova is that big of a threat. It has neutralized him, and that's why he's susceptible. And Beak does hit him over the back of the head, and then starts pounding on him and took him by surprise. So
yeah.
I mean, listen, I think you bring up a valid point. There is another death in New X-Men where someone appears to die very easily as well. We can talk about that once we get there. But yeah, you're not incorrect with that. But I just think this is a scenario where you are going to feel for Beast in there. You're going to feel for Beak. Beak does not want to do this. And it really sets him up to be in a horrific situation where Hank is seemingly dead and Beak is ripping his feathers out of his head, and he has no defense. He was the one holding the bat. Yeah. And he was the one who hit Hank McCoy because Then Cassandra Nova in Xavier's body is just whistling, leaving the danger room as Emma.
Cold.
Yeah, yeah, go.
No, cold. Just
Oh,
cold.
go.
That
Oh, I
is,
think said, oh.
that one panel is just shows how heartless Cassandra Nova is. Just whistling while she works.
And so then we cut to Emma and Scott, and Emma is saying, I have to say, I've seen better on cinema.
I love Emma with her. I can't wait to see how this turns out. Opera glasses, just being completely unimpressed with the entire spectacle. I love that. That's so Emma.
And I love that all the students are out with their cameras because they've never seen a spaceship before. And Jean chimes in saying, to Emma that she's very proud of the fact that mutants were among the first to make contact with extraterrestrial cultures. Our record for tolerating the unknown has always been exemplary. So listen, great writing. Absolutely fantastic writing.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, and that scene is punctuated. That's where the scene of Beak ripping his feathers out over Beast's seemingly dead body. So like this page it starts with Cassandra Nova whistling and is punctuated with Beast and Beak's horrifying scene, but in between it we have some just really great things that move. I don't know. There's just something about how this page is composed and jumps between the scenes and the themes of what's happening. It's damn it. I'm trying very hard not to compliment him.
I know what you're saying, but I would dare say that's also direction from the writer and like making sure these scenes are, going back and forth. But the final pages is Jean and Xavier having a moment. Jean saying, we'll miss you. Xavier saying, Cassandra Nova posing as Xavier saying that, I trust you as head mistress. There's nothing that you can't do. You'll be able to handle every situation. And Jean says, well, at least I don't have half the galaxy to take care of. Give my love to Lalandra and the Empire. And Cassandra Nova says, oh, I will. Imagine the responsibility of all that destructive potential, the power crack, the firement and extinguish suns. Imagine that in the wrong hands. And the last shot is a Shi'ar arriving to greet Xavier.
With that giant ship hovering over the Xavier Institute, making it look so small. It's a pretty cool closing page, and it definitely is a scary. Morrison has Cassandra literally ask the question, say the scary part out loud, establish that she is going into space with the Shi'ar to fuck things up, and that's a pretty big deal.
So the one thing that I kind of was like, I kind of cocked my head here is the panel where Jean says, give my love to Lalandra and the Empire. I'm like, really, Jean? These are the people who try to put you to death by combat. I'm like, are you being shady there? I would love if Jean was just being shady. But also, they're arriving on at the mansion. Why doesn't Jean go say hi herself? Is Jean walking away? Because yeah, Scott is going inside, and so is Jean, presumably. So I guess maybe Scott and Jean are just like, we're not dealing with these people. But I don't know. I read it as a little facetious back in the day. I think reading it now is very earnest.
I never read it as facetious, but now I want to read it that way. I hate to break it to you. I don't think Jean is that shady.
Listen, I think, yeah. Anyways. I agree. Anyways, so the last shot is the Shi'ar there. I DM'd you earlier today. I didn't know who the guy with the tusk is.
Yeah. I don't think you need to.
I don't think we need to. Yeah, I was just kind of confused by it, but it looks like it's Lalandra, Micromax, and Gladiator. Those are the figures. It's like a little beam and their silhouettes. So those are like the three you can make out. And then there's one with like big tusks, which I have never seen before. And I'm like, am I just blanking on a character? But
no, I don't think so. I don't remember him ever being there. Mm-hmm. But we did look him up. The character does have a name. The name is Mammoth. And they do show up again in a few issues when we follow up on the Shi'ar plot. No spoilers here. But yeah, that's Mammoth.
Listen, this great issue, 9 out of 10, if not a 9.99999 out of 10. That's it. It is a perfect slam dunk issue. And to pull the thread that you said earlier, if you want to understand Hank McCoy, if you want a really good Hank McCoy issue of why this character works very well, it's this issue.
Yeah, while he works very well in the hands of writers who know what to do with him and not just make him an absolute jerk. It's been all bangers with Morrison thus far, but this, I think, is this and 116, I think, are both probably the strongest of the run so far. And it just, the way that we've said it a million times, the way that Morrison is able to dive into these characters while also providing the kind of superhero stuff that we come here for, and you know, set up a really scary story. Like, no spoilers, but we're not going to follow. Like I said, we're not going to follow up on this for a few issues. So you're going to be sitting there with this idea of the most evil, genocidal person in the Marvel universe suddenly is possibly taking control of, you know, one of the mightiest empires in the cosmos. So there's a lot going on, but there's also such an opportunity for these characters to grow and evolve and make you really feel for them. So it's just a really perfectly done balancing act. It's everything I, as an X-Men fan, could realistically want out of an X-Men comic.
I'll take it a step further. It's what every X-Men fan should want out of an X-Men comic, and Cassandra Nova is not only a threat to mutants and evolution, but to the entire galaxy at this point. That is it. Boom.
I don't even know what else could possibly be said.
I just want to get to the next issue, but damn it, we're out of time.
I have to tell you, as I've said, I'm reading this in the omnibus, and I read like the first 2 pages of the next issue before I was like, wait, I'm not supposed to be doing this. Like, I was that caught up in the story and the excitement of reading this that I cheated just a little bit, but I shut it.
It makes me so happy to be rereading these stories again. It is such a pleasure. It is, again, Morrison does not talk down to the reader. I believe Morrison said, I write to an intelligent 14-year-old, which, one, I'm going to say their bar of an intelligent 14-year-old is very high, because I think at 14, some of this stuff would go over my head. But again, I think this is why X-Men the Animated Series does so well. Intuitively, we as a reader audience knows that there's a lot more happening, and it's evident in everything that is put into this comic. Again, we're only 4 issues in, and I think this is among the best writing, not just for the X-Men franchise, but in comic books in general.
Absolutely. It made us care about Beast. At the end of the day, that is a huge accomplishment. Neither one of us...
We hate Beast.
We hate Beast.
And I'm here crying.
You're crying over it.
Crying in my tub. I'm crying in my fucking tub. Like, over it.
Bathing in your Beast tears.
I mean, that's horrible. Like, can you imagine? The one thing I can only compare, it's not a doctor, but my auctioneering degree, which I'm so proud of. If someone told me, like, go wipe yourself with that, you're nothing, that would, oh my God. That's just like, that's driving a point home. You evil, evil bitch.
Fucking terrible. Fucking terrible. But also so great. Like,
so great, deliciously evil, evil.
Yes, the kind of villain you're certainly not rooting for Cassandra Nova, but you don't want her to go down easily either.
Well, this is what it established. You now have a villain that you understand the threat.
Yeah,
Morrison has built that credibility with Nova. We're of course not rooting for her. However, we understand now that the X-Men are really going to have a tough. Jean can't even detect her.
No.
And Jean is supposed to be Omega class. She can't even detect Nova in Xavier's body. This is fucking bullshit. And like, again, Scott is going through something. Emma's the newest person on the team. She's just throwing out her wit. And Wolverine is still healing from an attack from her. The X-Men are not in a shape to go up against her, and Morrison has driven that point home.
It's brilliant stuff. Brilliant. I don't even know. We could talk endlessly about how just intelligent this writing is. It's like you said, it almost even transcends comic books. Like, you don't necessarily even, it's so well written and these characters are so fleshed out. With just a few more words, you could sell this story without the images, for sure. Like, the writing here is just that strong. It makes you, even beyond what you see on the page, you have to fill in some of the blanks. You know, you're not seeing every part of Beak's attack on Beast, and the things that are being said and Beak's reaction to it. It's just paints such a vivid picture. It's so gut wrenching.
All right, so we'll be back next time with our interview with Joe Casey. We can't wait for you all to hear it. Such a great interview. And then we'll go back to New X-Men issue 118.
Which we will not drag our feet on. I'm beyond excited to be rereading this.
Oh my god, I just got an email that the Jaws 50th anniversary event was canceled. Oh, I'm so upset about this. In Cape Cod. Gasp. Anyways, you can hit
wow.
me up. You can hit me up.
Breaking news, everyone.
Listen, I'm really upset, okay? Like, Hank made me feel now the Jaws anniversary in Cape Cod has been canceled. What am I going to do? Anyways, you can hit me up at Power of X-Men on Instagram.
And you can find me at Flinkman on Instagram.
And we'll see you guys later.
Peace out.